So, most of you probably knew about these names. Some of you might call these Latin names. But the thing is, that's not right. The correct term is scientific name. And you might be wondering, why are these names exist in the first place? What's the point? And why is it not correct to call them Latin names? And so, I'll talk about the question of what exactly is scientific name? Let's get straight to the point. What's the point of scientific name? Alright, let me give you an example. Look at this animal. This is puma, also known as cougar, also known as mountain lion, also known as catamount, also known as panther, maybe even more names. So you see, it's quite confusing when one animal is called many things. And this is only in one language. Imagine other languages. One animal could be called hundreds of different names throughout the world. That is quite a problem when you're trying to pinpoint a specific animal. And so, that's where scientific names came in. With scientific names, there is a universal way to call a specific animal. The scientific names we use nowadays follows the basic rules of Linnean classification. Linnaeus arranged a hierarchical category of 7 levels. Most of you probably already know this, since I believe this is elementary level biology. Each of these is called taxonomic rank, or taxonomic category. Higher ranks have a single word as the taxon name, while the species rank consists of 2 words. This is why the naming system is called binomial nomenclature. Oh, by the way, taxon is the unit of taxonomy. For example, mammal is a class rank. Class Mammalia is then the taxon. If you are talking about a specific animal, for example, sheep, then Ovis aries is a taxon in the species rank. While most of us know the 7 major ranks, there are actually a lot more ranks in between. Some are quite easily remembered. For example, higher rank of something has the prefix supra, or super in English. The lower rank of the major ones has the prefix sub. Below that is infra. Usually, it stops there. But in some more detailed taxonomy, there are even more lower levels, which are subter and even lower, parv. Same with the upper ranks. Above super, there is magna. There are also some slip under super, which are gran and mir. Sometimes there are even a lot more. For example, non-order, hyperorder, minor order. Hey, that might be quite a lot to take in, but don't worry about it too much. Usually, it just goes as far as super and sub, sometimes infra. Let's get back to the major ranks. Quite often, between family and genus, tribe is included. Tribe rank is quite common in animal classification. There are some other ranks that are sometimes used. For example, legion and cohort, which is sometimes used in mammal classification. Some ranks have a common characteristic to the way they are named. For example, all taxa in the family rank have the suffix ide. Superfamily rank has the suffix oidea. Subfamily have the suffix ine. Tribe has the suffix ini. For some groups of animals, taxon in the ring of orders also have the same suffix. For example, in birds and fishes, orders have the suffix formes. In insect, orders have the suffix "terra". Some groups don't have such common suffix. For example, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians don't. So, all of these naming rules are regulated by the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, in short, ICZN. Oh, and other groups of organisms are regulated by different codes. For example, algae, fungi, and plants are regulated by ICN. Prokaryotes are regulated by ICNP, and viruses are regulated by ICTV. Each have the same basic, which is the linear binomial nomenclature, but each with their own twist. Oh, by the way, for this video, I'm only gonna talk about zoology. For the rank above genus, name consists of one word, written normally, first letter capitalized. For genus rank, name consists of one word, written italic or underscored if handwritten, first letter capitalized. For species, two words are used. Both are in italics. The second word is not capitalized. Oh, and while we're talking about the species name, this is not the species name. The combination of both words is the species name. Each of these words are called epithet. The first is the generic epithet, which is technically the same as the genus name. The second is the specific epithet, or sometimes called the specific name, but not the species name. Alright, moving on. When writing a species with a subgenus, the subgenus name is written after the generic epithet, but in parentheses. For subspecies, an extra word is written after the specific epithet, with the same rule as writing a specific epithet. This is the subspecific epithet. Most of the time, scientific name is followed by authorship. Authorship is written for the author who first publishes the description and name of an animal. Abbreviation could be used in articles after a full name had been written once. You could abbreviate epithets, but not the last one. For example, you could abbreviate Gallus gallus as G. gallus, or Gallus gallus domesticus as G. domesticus. There is a rule that stated no scientific name of two different taxon could be the same. But these rules only apply to the one regulated by the same code. For example, both of the genus is called Dracaena. One is a lizard, one is a plant. This is allowed because the two are not regulated by the same code. Oh, and a taxon could technically only have one valid name, since that's the whole point of having a scientific name. Scientific names are always linked to a specimen. The specimen is called the type specimen. Usually, the law of priority applies, especially regarding synonyms and homonyms. Think about it. Back then, 100 years ago, there was no internet. Scientists could describe and assign a name to an animal, while the other side of the world have no idea about it. And so, different publications could occur and different names could be assigned to the same animal. This is called synonyms. Besides that, the same name could also be assigned to a different animal. This is what's called homonyms. Since there could be no same name between taxon and no multiple names for a taxon, the law of priority is then applied. The first one to publish their works get the privilege to keep the valid name. If sometimes in the future adjustment happen to the taxon, the first name is then called pseudonyms. The law of priority also applies to authorship. For example, Linnaeus in 1758 described and assigned the name Fascianus Gallus to the red jungle vole. It is now called Gallus gallus, but still, the authorship is written as Linnaeus 1758, but in parentheses. So, if you see a scientific name which authorship is written in parentheses, that means the taxon had undergone a change. Scientific names are, usually, very exact. Some names are descriptive. Hence, two completely different animals could have a similar name since they have a similar description of a specific trait, which is why spellings are very important for scientific names. For example, this one is Dermoptera, this one is Dermaptera. Both means leather wing because, well, they have leathery wings. Yet, they are completely different groups of animals. So, a single typo could matter a lot. Normally, you couldn't use any symbols in a scientific name. In a specific case, hyphen can be used if it forms a descriptive word. For example, Zigiela ex notata. Ex notata means X mark. Oinophila v flava means yellow V. Other examples are Y inversum, M album, C album, and so on. Animals' common name could technically be the same as their scientific name. A good example would be boa constrictor, with the scientific name of, well, boa constrictor. Some scientific names are just what the animal is called in some local regions. For example, sus. Sus just literally means pig in Latin. While most are from Latins and Greeks, some also took names from varieties of languages. I'll give you some examples. Monitor lizard, which is Varanus. Varanus came from the Arabic word waran, which is basically what they call these lizards. The Itatsi from Mustela Itatsi came from the word Itachi, which is the Japanese word for weasel. The genus Rusa literally came from the Malayan word rusa, which means deer. Cabasus is taken from French word that means armadillo, which is apparently also taken from what the native French Guyana called them. They call them capasu. Some names are the onomatopoeia of the song they make. For example, the genus Ara, which is an onomatopoeia of their sound. It is also what they are called in Tupi language of Brazil. Some epithets are descriptive, that is, it describes the characteristics of the animal. For example, some of the arthropods that I've talked about before in this video. Some commonly known animal names are also very descriptive. For example, rhinoceros, which is also a genus name. Rhinoceros means nose horn. Some shows the origin of the animal. For example, Coturnix japonica, which basically means quail from Japan. Alligator sinensis literally means alligator from China. Crocodilus niloticus literally means crocodile from Nile River. Rhinoceros sondaicus literally means rhinoceros from Sundaland. Some names are tributes. These usually ends with the suffix "I". For example, Varanus Beccari is a tribute to Odoardo Beccari. Barack Trema Obama is just straight up Barack Obama. Not only to people, Some are references to pop cultures. Kilikola Charizard took inspiration from Pokemon name. Wokia Chewbacca took inspiration from Chewbacca. Names could also just be a repetition of the same word, also known as tautonym, since it's still technically not the same name. For example, Western gorilla is in the genus Gorilla. The species name is Gorilla gorilla. This is legal since, technically, those are two different names. Remember, the two epithets in species name forms a single name. So yeah, it's different from the genus name. And if we go even further, we got the western lowland gorilla subspecies, which is called gorilla gorilla gorilla. Again, legal because it's a different name. Some scientists does a little wordplay to avoid exact repetition. For example, the babirusa. Babirusa is what the Indonesian call these animals. Its scientific name was Sus babirusa before it is moved to its own genus. It is now called Babirusa babirusa, which is, I guess, a little bit more creative. Some consist of two words that literally have the same meaning. For example, Felis catus. Both words mean cat. So yeah, even more creative. Talking about being creative, ornithologists are quite the famous group. It is quite a known joke in zoologist community that ornithologist has a, well, peculiar naming sense. The joke basically goes like this. Oh, I saw a bird this morning. Cool. What does it look like? It's a blackbird with a yellow head. Do you have any idea what it is? Oh, have you tried googling yellow-headed blackbird? That might be it. Oh, it actually is. And yeah, this funny naming sense also could apply to scientific names. I'll give you an example. Oh look, a kingfisher. We should call it Alcedo, because that's what it's called in Latin. Oh great! Hey look, there's another one that looks quite different. Oh yeah, what should we call it? How about Dacelo? You know, since it's quite similar and all. That's quite a nice idea. Oh look, another one. And what should we call this one? I have a great idea. Lacedo. Amazing. Not only from the bird gang, some interesting naming sense also come from the herpetologists. In 2019, scientists found three species of tiny frogs, and they just couldn't resist the temptation of giving them the genus Mini. But that's not all. Guess what their species name is? Mini Mum, Mini Skule, Miniature. Beautiful. I couldn't be prouder of my fellow zoologists. So yeah, scientific names are very important in zoology. While it might seem confusing and hard to learn, and while it seems very technical, it's quite a fun thing to play around with. Zoologists are having fun with the names after all. There are some more depths to the nomenclature, but this is the basic for zoologists. And that's all for now.